Hey, welcome back, everybody. We are here in session 4 of 5 for Gauntlet Comics Fellowship, Eyes of the Underlord, and we have done a lot of work. They have this fellowship has frustrated my overlord's plan significantly. Basically, crippled one of his generals, and basically, effectively stopped cold one of his master plans. So, and at this point, the Fellowship, I think, is preparing to make their way to the capital of the dwarves to try and head off another one of my overlord's evil plans. And I think it's time to introduce all of the characters once I say a couple more things about what kind of game this is. As if you've been following this, this is a game that was organized through the Gauntlet, gauntlet-rpg.com. It is a community of people who get together, play games together, and we take we are a bunch of people that enjoy each other's company. We like to get together and play these games. And if you'd like to find out more, visit gauntlet-rpg.com to find out how to get involved and hopefully come play with us. My name is Chris. I'll be the facilitator for this game. I use he/him pronouns. And I'll be alternating between doing sort of general narrating and playing the evil overlord and their generals. So that'll be my role here, and I'll let each of the folks introduce themselves. And I think we'll get started with Alexi. Alexi, if you tell us who you are, who you're playing, and anything else you'd like to share with the two to five people who may be watching this.
Hello. Hello. I'm Alexi, he/him. You can follow all my gaming endeavors online at Cloven Pine Games. So that's Cloven Pine Games on Twitter and Cloven Pine Games on itch.io, where you can download a bunch of games of my design. In this series of Fellowship, I am playing Dapperdew Axebreaker the Orc. He is from an orcish people that are fungal in nature. Yeah, he's a big, scary guy. He's got axes for days, and a loyal wolf companion named Princess, who's kind of a wolf by way of a skeleton animated by fungal growth. Anyway, down here in the underground world, fungi are a big deal. And they're super cool. Play a valuable role in the ecosystem, so they shouldn't be looked down upon. And the orcs, likewise, should not be discounted or forgotten about as the peoples of the world gather to confront the menace of the Overlord.
Great. Bethany, would you like to tell us about Odell the Squire?
Yeah, Odell is, well, the Squire playbook is basically someone who has no business whatsoever being on a heroic quest, and Odell fits that to a T. They are a just ordinary person from the surface who somehow got lost down here and decided to stay. Maybe, possibly because they were wanted for some sort of minor, very minor misdemeanor, definitely nothing serious on the surface.
Okay. Do you have any other projects or anything you'd like to share with our massive viewership?
Yeah, I've got a couple games up on itch.io at Bethany Harvey, and I do a lot of random stuff on Twitter. Sporadically, also Bethany Harvey. I'm super easy to find on the internet.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'll give a shout out to Unincorporated, which is also on your itch.io page, and it is awesome fun. So, Kyle, tell us who you'll be playing, Regina, and tell us about anything else you got going on that you want to share.
All right, I'm playing Regina Firewheel, the dwarf. Her people are travelers from another dimension, and they're the kind of mad scientists of the underworld. Lots of tech.
And bombs, apparently. We've seen those operate a lot so far. Okay.
Lots of bombs too, yeah.
What is mad science without bombs, I say. Okay, so when last we left our fellowship, you had all completely destroyed the Overlord's plans for Rhinoon, rescued the Sylvan Sapphire from the scourge that was trying to claim it, and set up a garrison of defense that was made up of ghost fungal zombie ghost fungal zombie orcs.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything there? So basically
Ring of kind of death's head mushrooms warning people off.
Yeah, so, and the fellowship move y'all had chosen basically completely forestalls the Overlord from ever striking back against Rhinoom or attempting to regain the Sylvan Sapphire. So that puts the kibosh on one of my Overlord's main evil plans. And as a side effect of that fellowship move, I now have lost that plan altogether. I can't reclaim it. So, and and the other thing you guys did, which was a deft bit of sneakiness, was by using that fellowship move to block my access to Rhinoom and hence the Sylvan Sapphire. You also broke the Overlord's ability to reclaim the stat that you guys stole from him using the Sylvan Sapphire and the research that the dwarves were able to do to undermine my Overlord's invulnerability. Oh goodness, it was a rough couple of sessions for the Overlord.
Yeah, well, we can't really feel too bad about that.
Well, no, but I mean, I'm sure there's at least one person out there that sympathizes with the Overlord. There's always one. In fact, there might be one in your group that kind of admires the Overlord a little bit.
They're a pretty cool cyborg, just gonna say.
So, when last we left, I think you guys had decided to make your way to the Dwarven capital in order to try to head off the plans that you had heard about the Overlord making with regards to the dwarves. Has any of that changed since last time? Okay. Well, what we have, one of the things we have in Fellowship when we are traveling from place to place is we have an ability called, or not an ability really, it's more of kind of a move. It's called the Long Journey. And it is a shared narration. We've done this once before when we took our big trip to Rhinoom, and I think it's a good move to use in getting us to our next destination, which is the Dwarven capital, which is really not going to be close to Rhinoom. And this is going to take us and show us a few more sites and a few more hazards that people encounter as they're having to travel through this landscape that has a lot of bad stuff going on with the Overlord's scourge spreading across the land. So the way that this long journey mechanic works is we set up a situation where each character narrates a particular instant of the journey. Like one character narrates a problem, describes that problem, and then they pass the spotlight to another player to solve that problem. That player narrates how the fellowship was able to solve that problem, and then narrates the next problem that you guys encountered, and then passes the spotlight on to the next player in the round to navigate the next thing you encounter. And at one point, we'll add a little bit in here, and it'll pass to me as the Overlord to narrate one particularly ugly thing that you see that the Overlord has been up to in your travels. And we'll save the Overlord's bit to last, I think. And my bit will just be like something you notice. It won't be a problem that you have to solve. It'll just be like something you notice as you travel through the lands and notice the effects of the Overlord's scourge affecting the land and that corruptive blight that they seem to bring with them. Okay. So we're making our way from Rhinoom to the capital of the dwarves. I'm going to start off, I think, with Regina And Regina, I'd like you to command a little lore for me. What is the name of the capital city of the dwarves?
First founding.
All right. And so as you're heading there, I'll let you kind of narrate the first obstacle on the path between Rhinum and the dwarven capital. Like as you're traveling across the landscape here, what's the first thing that the Fellowship encounters that causes you problems?
Well, we raised the ghosts of the Elfland to defend it. So there's probably a whole bunch of the Overlord's forces just sort of like milling around on the edges. Like we're gonna have to get past that blockade, I guess.
Yes, I think the Overlord still hasn't gotten the message and maybe hasn't completely given up yet. Like they're not sure exactly what's killing all their forces yet, maybe. And so they're still sort of grinding a lot of the lower tier, like grunts, for the lack of a better word, up against that wall of undead impossibility before they realize, okay, this is pointless. I'm wasting resources. They haven't come to that point yet because it hasn't been that long. So you're going to have to figure out how to get past them. So let's take it the next step. Let's see, Bethany, would you like to give us, or have Odell, kind of tell us what you guys have to do to make it past this cordon that the Overlord has tried to throw around Rhino?
So the temple is a giant tree. Giant trees have giant roots. Giant roots spread out a long way underground. I think one of them's been hollowed out. And there's a tunnel that goes, it goes outside of this court, not far outside, and really the real challenge is getting out, because we're still within view of these the Overlord's minions here, and we don't want to reveal this secret exit. So that's both in one. I think that is how we get past it and the next problem.
Okay, so your exit out of this secret tunnel sort of puts you kind of directly in, almost in the teeth of the Overlord's army, but just behind the line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Alexi, Dapperdew, how are you guys going to get out of this particular mess?
The problem being, how do we get past without revealing the tunnel that we came from?
Yes, I think that's the gist of the problem that Odell has so pleasantly left to you.
I think. Let me know if this works. I think we might be taking a two-pronged approach where most of the Fellowship travels through the roots, but by the time we're exiting the roots and coming back up on the opposite side of the Overlord's barricade, we've also got a precision strike aimed to punch through that barricade. And it is, of course, our commandeered cyborg that got a new name from Regina. What did you rename the creature?
Ironhorn, I believe.
Yeah. So that's my thought. That they're too distracted because this is when we have Ironhorn just punching through the Overlord, besiegers here, so that as they're scattered by that, the rest of us are able to basically just leap onto Ironhorn's side as they charge past, and then ride with them away and into the under sunset, past the Overlord's forces, leaving them none the wiser about our escape route.
Okay, and after you've made it past that line and you've ridden on Steelhorn, or is it Steelhorn? I think
Steelhorn.
is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
name. Is the what is the final obstacle that you guys have to make it past to finally get on the get a safe path into the dwarven capital of First Founding?
Yeah, I'll say that we travel for a good long while. There's a little montage of the undersun revolving and the undermoon changing phases, and Dapperdew looking up and like giving the undermoon a like long hard look like, don't you try any funny business. And then we get to like a mountain pass that's along the way to the dwarves, and there's a waterfall that people can usually just like walk right through, like like you part the curtains of the waterfall and walk right through. And when we get there, we find that the waterfall has turned into this strange like solidified non-ice that's like a signature of the Overlord. And it's this weird plasticky uh, uh, substance that no longer is easy to just put push aside and pass through. So that's the obstacle in our way.
Okay, and I think it's going to come around back to Regina. Kyle, how do you think the Fellowship is going to make it past this last obstacle?
Probably going to put out a call to the dwarf people, be like, hey, we kind of need a pickup here, and they just send some like steel reinforced carriages things to just come pick us up. And yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you to command a little lore about this carriage system. Are these horseless carriages, or are these like pulled by some sort of beast that the dwarves have managed to domesticate?
I'm going to go with horseless carriages.
Okay. So what does it look like they run on? Like, if we're seeing these on a comic book page, like, are they illustrated like a steampunk locomotive type thing, or does it look like some sort of weird like post-apocalypse science contraption? Like, what are we seeing on the screen with these things?
I think it's like an old timey train, but with like a weird looking engine. Maybe like big glowy parts on it and things.
So what color is the glow? Is it like a red fire glow, or is it something cool and weird?
Let's go with blue. Blue seems like a good color.
Okay. So these carriages roll up. They are transporting you guys. The last we'll say the last maybe 5 or 6 miles into the capital. Now, here's what you guys observe. Of course, you just saw that waterfall had been converted to that weird sort of resin that's been a signature like corruptive influence of the Overlord. But I think also what you're seeing as you're coming into the capital is you're also seeing this this sort of aspect of the lands around the dwarven capital has changed. Like, I think maybe when the dwarves first appeared and first decided to put down their capital city roots here, they based that somewhat on this particular spot's ability to provide for itself, so that they could be kind of self-sufficient if they needed to. Like, there was easily arable farmland around, that sort of thing, and they had built up like a fairly industrial level of farming close into the city to kind of feed everybody. And I think what you're noticing as you're coming through is that some of those fields and the farm equipment that have been set up to help the population of dwarves here really make it for themselves. Some of that equipment looks like it's gone to seed, like it's some of the ground is showing some signs of that slow creeping corruption that you saw on the lead into Rhino. Like it's not fully locked in here yet. Like you're not seeing those weird bubbles on the ground or anything like that, or that odd crystal growth and resin growth like you'd seen there. But like you can, because you've been through it before, you can see like the beginning signs, like the plants growing oddly, colorations changing when seasonally it shouldn't be, that sort of thing. Like, and you're noticing more and more of that. And after that resin waterfall, like it's, that kind of leaves kind of I think, it kind of leaves you with a sort of foreboding sense as you're rolling back into a place that you're still sure is relatively safe for the moment, but you can feel as you're rolling in, like the slow creeping fingers of the overlord reaching toward the dwarves now. Okay. Now, as you're approaching the city, we've already discussed that there's a big university here that is the origin of the field team that was sent out to do the research on the Sylvan Sapphire that we dealt with last time. Regina, as we're approaching First Founding, like what is the most obvious thing that people riding up to the city will see? What's the first thing they notice about that as they're approaching the city? Is there like one big tall building? Is there a great wall? Is there a roar from factories? Like what's the most obvious thing that we're going to kind of see on the comics page to show us that this is the dwarves' home city and this is what they're about?
I think there are a lot of tall buildings. Like we know we don't have a lot of space to work with, so we're building up a lot more than I think most people in the underworld. So lots of like relatively tall buildings and like some elevated tracks and stuff, just to try to move people around efficiently.
Okay, so you're seeing like you've got buildings that are multiple stories tall, like 6, 7, 8, even more.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And when you're saying tracks, do you mean like walkways above the street level between the buildings? Like personal bridge sidewalk kind of things, or?
That sounds good. If it's not too advanced for the setting, I'd kind of like some subways or the equivalent, like a mass transit system.
Oh no, that's perfectly fine. This is comic book level weird science stuff. So as long as it doesn't look super advanced, like say the subway might be the same sort of apparatus that you're using for the carriages. Like it still looks sort of retro and weird. It's not future with pretty lights and everything. So you guys are coming in there. Let me ask you a couple of other questions. And I think I'll sort of direct these to Dapperdew. Dapperdew, what do you think is the most amazing thing to Dapperdew as he's approaching the city and seeing all of these things?
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. There's some of these high buildings clearly have like observation towers at the top, and it's clear there's a possibility for really advanced uh, under astronomy here, and so that's amazing because that would both possibly provide insights into the weaknesses of the undermoon, so that we could prepare and could deal with it when it becomes a problem, and maybe glean insights from the distant and beautiful overmoon that is the greatest of celestial bodies and one that we are cruelly deprived the sight of down here.
Okay. Now I think Odell, you've seen surface cities, like you've been to Gauntlet City. Maybe you've traveled to like New York or LA or one of the other like really big cities of the surface. And what about this? Even after seeing all of that, what about this particular city is still kind kind of amazing and sort of, puts you back on your heels?
The sheer variety of different types of transportation. You have the elevated tracks. You have this cross-country locomotive thing that we came in on, and you have like people just sort of zipping around on various small. That looks like is that a jet bicycle? Um, you know, uh, and there's a skateboard with a little engine on the back, like spewing out smoke. I have no idea how any of these things work, but they're all like, and they all look like not cobbled together badly, but they all look handmade. They all look like they have some personality to them, I guess.
So it's all artisanal. It's none of it is an assembly line. It all looks like it's custom made.
Yeah, or it was assembly line, and then the owner, decided to modify it. I think that's actually what's going on. Is like everybody modifies their stuff to fit their own personality and their own needs. So everything's a little bit different. There's no like cookie cutter anything.
Or at least not once they get it home.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. As we're coming up on the city, we'll turn back to Regina. Regina, where do you think the fellowship should begin here? If you're coming into the city, you know that the Overlord sent an emissary to talk to people at the university. Where do you think would be the best place to start with trying to figure out what's been going on since you left? Where would Regina start? Does she have a contact that she would go to? Does she just go back to the university? What do you think she would do?
I think she'd head back to the university. Check in with her, I guess, superiors, the administration and stuff. See how things are going.
Okay. All right, and we've called this a university. Like, do you think it's structured like a surface human university type thing? Like you've got like a sort of, not necessarily a board of directors, but like maybe like some sort of alumnus board or emeritus board or something like that kind of tries to run things administratively? Or do you think it's set up as kind of a top-down thing with like a president, vice president, provost, and that sort of thing, with like different officers being involved? Or is it a council-based system, or is it a officer-based system?
Let's go with council-based. Lots of like alumni trying to call the shots and stuff.
Okay, and let's see. Do you have a particular person on the alumni that you think Regina would go to? Like you mentioned, a possible mentor.
Let's go with my grandma, Octavia Firewheel.
All right. So I think when you return, like you go to Octavia's office. She, in spite of her relatively advanced age, we'll say she is. I don't think we've really talked about how long lived these particular dwarves are. Like you mentioned that they're effectively humans, but from an alternate timeline sort of thing. What is, because of their science and all that, what is their generally expected lifespan?
Let's go with 19th century human. So probably a bit low by modern standards.
Okay, so a lot of issues with diseases later on in life, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and so it's pretty impressive that Grandma Octavia has made it this far and is still active. So I'd say physically, would it be fair to say she's probably a pretty physically impressive person? Like she's still hale and hearty enough to be, showing up at university and getting involved and putting her nose into everybody's business.
That sounds good.
Okay. All right. Now, I think you guys sort of roll up in these carriages, and they bring you to, I think they've probably got some housing prepared for the fellowship at the university based on your communications with them. Um, Regina, tell us about what this housing at the university looks like. Like when you and your friends arrive and they've prepared a living space for you on the university grounds. It's kind of a place of honor. What does that look like?
We've probably been given like the top half of a tower with like workshops and storage space on the lower levels, with us given like residencies and offices on the top parts.
Okay, so you come in. I think you have like an office attached to like a small living space. Is that how it would be?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Do you think it's set up like a suite where like there's personal rooms for each person, and then like a main area that's shared on the top on that top level?
Uh, how about like a common sleeping area with just like a bunch of beds in there, and it's just sort of expected the whole team will just, not a lot of privacy.
Okay, so almost set up like a college dormitory sort of still up there. They haven't really shifted things around that much.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And I think each of you arrives. You're greeted by one of the standard attendants in the university. Now, I'm going to ask you one more question before I kind of get into this part, Regina. Name structure for your dwarves. Like Regina is a Latinate word root. Is that fair to presume that most other dwarves will have similar origins for their names?
Yes.
Okay. So I think this person is an attendant, and she refers to she sort of gives you a respectful, not really bow, because I don't get the impression that the dwarves necessarily do the bowing thing all that much, but like a respectful nod, and says, I'm concomitant Livia. I've been assigned to help you get accommodated here. They have reserved this tower for the fellowship, and she nods specifically to you, Regina, and she says, it is great to finally meet you. We've heard tales of your adventures already, and it it is amazed many of us that you have accomplished so much when in the face of the overlord, when so many other places have fallen so quickly to his assault.
I've had excellent allies. This is Dapperdew the Orc and Odell from the surface.
And I think she like turns respectfully to each of you, and gives you that same respectful nod. Says, "I am concomitant Livia of the university. Is I will confess, we know less than we would like of your peoples. Is there anything we could bring you or provide for you that would ease your stay here?" And I think she looks first to Odell and says, what might we provide to ease your stay?
We surface people are quite adaptable. I'm sure whatever accommodations you have will be fine.
She nods and says, "Thank you. If you have any needs that you think of later, or anything comes up, please let me know. It's been my pleasure to receive this assignment, and I will happily do my best to provide." And then she turns to Dapperdew asks the same question. What can we provide for you in order to ease your stay here? I will confess we have less knowledge than we would like of the orcs, and I'm not sure what to provide. Whether you had any particular needs regarding soil for rooting or anything like that.
Just just some materials for axes. I need to make more axes.
And I think if I remember right, you have kind of these axes, strapped in various places across your back. Is that right?
Oh yeah, all over.
And I think she's sort of looking at them, and she looks puzzled. And she says, I'll be honest, I'm not sure what necessarily we could provide you. It seems like your axes are made of lots of different things, so I'm not sure exactly what we could get you. I mean,
you have scrap metal, don't you?
Oh, certainly. Would any particular metal do?
Yeah, and any metal. Little of it for axes, little of it for eating. That's what I always say.
I think she nods, and then she turns to Regina and gives you this sort of sort of really perplexed look, like I don't know what to. And I think she steps away from Dapperdew, and she sort of leans into Regina and she whispers, is just raw iron okay? Like raw iron? Should it be like a carbon steel mix? Like what?
Just go down to the factories and get any metal cast-offs, anything that didn't quite come out of the mold right. They'll work wonders with them.
Okay, she nods. She feels it. She looks like she's a little calmer now. He says, "Okay, I can do that." And you see her call over a couple of very, very junior, apprentice level students at the university. They're dressed in the sort of traditional entry level student attire. Regina, what would that look like? Is it like a robe? Is it a tunic with slacks? What is the entry level outfit standard for the university?
I think it's a tunic. You get the robe when you get to a higher level.
Okay. All right, I can see that. So the tunic. What's the main symbol for the Dwarven University that's emblazoned on the front of that tunic?
A steel mace.
Okay, so you see roughly 3 junior attendants come up with that that outfit, and of course they're still doing a lot of assistant and apprentice work. So their tunics are a little messed up. There's there's scorching on one of them. Looks like one of them has been had to be sewed back together after it had an unfortunate encounter with the business end of some sort of saw. No blood or anything on it. Just it looks like it's had to be sewn up a couple of times because somebody was a little clumsy about how loose they had their tunic strapped that day when it was time to go into the sawmill. And she whispers and points in a couple of different directions and sends them off running. And then she turns back to you all and says, "Come, I will show you to the upper portion of the tower. The bottom portion of the tower is some of the older some older labs and workshops. Feel free to use those if they are acceptable to your needs. If you need anything additional for the workshopping, just let me know and we'll try to provide as best we can." And then she leads you past, and you can tell this is still a nice tower, but this is not the best place they could have put you guys. And Regina, I think you recognize that. It's been a while since you've been here. Maybe when you were here, this was still a pretty good student housing tower. But it's obviously been out of use for a little while. These workshops are not being used, and you think that's unusual. Usually they're you guys, you dwarves are always scrambling for workshop space. Like, who doesn't need more workshop space? And some of this space has obviously been unused for a little while. Like, there's dust where there shouldn't be dust. No dust. Scorch marks maybe, iron filings that have been shaved off, certainly. Like, but dust in a workshop? Weird. And as you're all of you are kind of going up these stairs, and she's like pointing out the different spaces that you have available. There's some administrative office space on the second floor of the tower. The workshops are on the bottom floor. And the administrative space as well is showing that it hasn't been used in a while. And as you move up to the dormitory rooms, these look like they have actually gotten, these have actually gotten a little bit spruced up for your arrival. Like, they figured they had anticipated you eventually coming this way, based on your communications with them. And these are actually like, these beds have been spruced up. These aren't like entry level apprentice beds here. Sorry, not breads. I'm hungry, but no, beds. These are actual beds, and they have like full pillows. They have sheets, and they are fully appointed. These rooms have your crystal lamps and all of that stuff that's been designed for to allow you guys to have as many comforts as you could with this space. And I think there's still, even with that, I think there's still like a couple of signs in here that you got your return, Regina, and the entry of the fellowship into the city is not as welcomed as you think it ought to be. I'm going to ask that question of each of you, and then I think we'll have a little bit more conversational space. I think with Livia, I think in the chat, Odell, I think you mentioned that you might want to maybe chat her up a little bit and see if you can use your squire move. So we'll have an opportunity for that. But first, let me get a word from each of you on what about this space is telling that maybe you guys aren't as welcome as they're making it sound like you are. Let's start with Dapperdew. Dapperdew, what about this space when you enter here tells you subtly but still clearly that you guys aren't as welcome as Olivia is making it sound like you are?
I think the view we have, just looks out over like a not a parking lot, right, but like a dealership for some of these personal scooters and bikes and whatnot, right? But so it's not a scenic view, right? It's just a kind of little industrial glimpse, and it's clear that this is the least prepossessing side of the tower to be looking out of.
Okay, so they clearly put you someplace where you're not getting the most welcoming view. So, all right, and let's see, Regina, what do you notice about this tower? You've got some experience with the university and how they handle things. What about this tower is showing you that this is sort of a backhanded gesture by the university?
I think they just recently turned on like the hot water and the heating for this section. Like, it was clearly just used for storage or lying dormant or something until just before we got here.
Okay, so maybe the pipes are rattling a little bit with the new hot water and things like that, and maybe you're noticing a few leaks that would have been caught had they been using this space.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And finally, Odell, what do you see here, or notice that that causes you to think, maybe Livia is putting on a little bit more of a show about how welcome we are than would be strictly necessary if you actually were welcome?
The walk here, it didn't it took us on a route where we didn't, we weren't going to come into contact with anyone. We weren't going to talk to anyone like face to face. Now that we're here, we're far enough away that we can't hear anyone else. And all we can see is this dealership where nothing interesting is going on. It's almost like they either don't want anyone to know that we're here, or they don't want us to observe things, one or the other, or both.
Okay, so the space and the way they took you here sort of led you away from the main campus of the university. Maybe
Yeah, I mean, we could see people, but we were never like we were never close enough that they would like see our faces or anything like that.
Okay, so you would have to actually try to get people's attention from where you guys were walking to actually be known.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now I think Lydia has, walks you guys up the stairs, walks you into the rooms, like shows you how to, those of you who aren't Regina, shows you kind of how to operate the mechanics of the space, like how to turn on the hot water, which levers the hot water, because it's not obviously labeled, because if you lived here, you'd already know. Like it's all, hot water is always on the right and cold water is always on the left, or whatever it happens to be. I think as she's trying to explain that, explain those various things to you, I think Odell, if you want to, she's sort of making a little bit of small talk, because you can tell she's kind of interested in what you guys have been up to, and it's you guys are the pinnacle of heroism right now with your encounters with the Overlord going as well as they have. What how do you get things started with her to kind of open up a little bit more?
So she belongs to this university, right? But so I'm gonna ask like what her areas of expertise are, like what her interests are. It worked really well with Fiddlehead, so why mess with what works?
All right. And I think you recognize that. I think you recognize that she is super happy to talk about her area of expertise, because she really felt like she didn't have a whole lot to talk about with you, and soon after you get the impression that maybe this is a can of worms you didn't want to open, because she, whereas Regina's interests are like in explosives and like big showy things, and things that are obviously have concrete accomplishments and real world applications easily apparent. I think she is been on the more esoteric side of the dwarven science areas. She is super interested in the ecology, like minute levels of ecology here in Comdir, and how this environment functions, like on a and she's going into like how the plants here are able to exist without sunlight, and yet still basically be using the same chemical processes as plants that would be present in spaces with sunlight. And they're operating with this weird undersun in exactly the same way as they could. They're using the same chemical process to produce chlorophyll, and chlorophyll's processing the energy the same way. But for the life of her, like you can tell she's probably the equivalent of like an entry level master student for this university, and she's like describing all the different experiments she's run, and based on the pre-existing scientific knowledge of the dwarves when they arrived about how a surface world would work. And it's just continually she's been trying to test different things about how the where the breakdown is, like where do things stop working like the surface world. And for the life, and she's just going into like all these things, she's never been able to actually find that break point yet as to where things stop working like a surface world. And she's excited. She's both excited and frustrated by this, and she's going through like the minute levels of like the chemical balances of these experiments, and it is probably starting to drive Odell a little bit up the wall, honestly.
Yeah, this is something that I've always wondered about ever since arriving here. How do plants work down here? And she's telling me this thing I've always wanted to know, but I can't understand what she's actually like. She's not communicating it in a way that makes sense to someone who doesn't know the terms and is also from the surface. So it's a little frustrating. I probably keep asking her to repeat herself and then just sort of give up and like nod a lot. I think I do at some point mention my, not even a theory, my like idea that the Undersun might have been made by the same process or of the same materials as the Sylvan Sapphire.
Oh, and I think she like that the one thing she hasn't been able to, because she wasn't on that research team. She wasn't assigned to it. And you get the immediate impression as she starts to ask you questions that she's a little bit sore about not being on that research team, because you would figure that would be right in her wheelhouse. Like, and she's a little frustrated she wasn't sent. And I think this is when you get the chance, I think, to kind of get her to open up a little bit more about her frustrations with what's going on at the university right now and why she wasn't assigned to it. So it sounds like you'd be in a space to speak softly, and I think that can trigger your squire move as well. So
yeah.
So you would normally with speak softly. You just roll with plus wisdom, and we'll see how that goes.
Cool. My wisdom is good. Well, it's okay. 8.
Okay, that gets you where you need to be. Now, with speak softly on a success, you ask 3 questions from the list, and the answers are true. But because you didn't roll a 10, one of the answers that you will get to these questions is not going to be helpful. Either they refuse outright to answer, or they reveal a terrible truth you didn't want to hear, and
Right.
that'd be their choice. Now, do you have any move that forces one that would force them to answer truthfully, even if they wouldn't?
Let me look at that. No, I gain a bond with them.
Yeah, that one definitely fires off. You definitely gain a bond.
No, I don't have anything that forces them to tell me the truth.
Okay, so one of these questions will either be an outright lie, or a terrible truth. I'm not sure which one of those would be worse, but or they could just refuse to answer. They could lie, they could refuse to answer, or just tell you a really bad truth.
Okay.
Oh, wait a second. No, that's the 6 or less result is a lie. On the 9 or less, one of the answers is just not helpful. Either it's going to be a refusal to answer, like she'll clam up, or they'll tell you a terrible truth that you didn't want to hear.
Okay. What do they want, and how could we help them get it?
Ooh, Olivia really wants to have an inside line on the ongoing Sylvan Sapphire project. Like, she super wants that. Like,
that's a thing we could probably help her with.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys have a connection. So she super wants that, and of course you could put in a good word for her specifically with the Rhinumians, and they will certainly listen to you, and you could definitely get her in there. Like, so that, I think is that a fair answer to that question?
Oh yeah, and I'm definitely like, oh, that's a shame. What were they thinking, not putting you on that team? Like, this is clearly right, like connected to your research. I'll have to talk to the Rhinumians next time I'm there and see if there's anything that they, I am absolutely being very like sympathetic and helpful with that one.
Oh, and she's just like, oh my God, I think that would be amazing. Like, that might finally put me past the, past the chemical energy problem, because that's where the breakdown is. We can't figure out how that's making that jump. The sunlight down here is not sunlight. Like, we know that. It doesn't have the same stuff in it. But and she just starts to, like, take a deep breath, like she's going to start talking again. So what would the next question?
What can she tell us about the Overlord's visit? Or Overlord's minions, or what? Yeah, they sent a delegation here. They've been here already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. I think this is where you'll get I think this is where you're going to get a terrible truth, because that seems to be tailor-made for it.
Yeah.
What would your other question be? Because I want to answer that one last, right before we take a break, so I can kind of let you guys stew on that one a little bit.
Okay. I think of some. Well, what were they doing, and what are they going to do next?
Okay. Are you asking about Livia specifically, or are you asking about what she thinks the university is doing?
I'm asking about what she thinks the university is doing. Yeah.
Okay. I think she thinks the university is playing way too coy with this envoy from the Overlord. She in particular doesn't trust him, which you guys figure is probably a wise position to take. And she thinks somebody in the brass somewhere, like somebody in the upper levels of the university, or maybe in this. Well, let me ask Regina this right quick. What is the political structure for the dwarves? Like, are they like a Roman style, like Senate with a consul or president type at the top? Like, are they like a big assembly, like Parliament style, like just one big, like, popularly elected house? Like, what's the political structure for the dwarves outside the university?
Roman style Senate and consul sounds good to me.
Okay, so I think she thinks somebody either on the political side of the brass or somebody on the university side of the brass is trying to play for some sort of favor from the Overlord. And I think the terrible truth that you get, and after this terrible truth revelation, we'll take a 10-minute break. The Overlord here is making inroads, like direct inroads, with offers of the Overlord's technology to some of the top scientists at the university, and some of the Overlord's weapon systems to the political and military side. And they are listening way more than they should. I mean, like, to the point of entertaining them specifically, and talking with these long-term like this. And the Overlord has been making, like, the envoy that has been here brought stuff for people to look at, like, as offerings, and hasn't asked for anything yet. And I think that's where we'll stop. We'll take our 10-minute break here, and we'll come back at let's give it a round number. Let's say we'll come back at 9:20, and move forward from there and see what the rest of the university is doing. I will pause the recording. Okay, and we're back. We've got I think Odell, Livia has just conveyed to you kind of what you might have been thinking, that the university is getting a little cozy with this envoy from the Overlord, and maybe some of the other folks on the political end of the spectrum are too. And this envoy has been trading favors and maybe trading like technology. And we already know that the Overlord has been trying to do things with dwarven portal technology.
Oh yeah, right.
So, and it could be that somebody's been giving the Overlord some of that stuff in exchange for whatever the Overlord's passing along to them.
We thought Belinduan had turned that waterfall solid, but could that have been the dwarves testing out what they've gotten from the Overlord?
I would like to think that even we would test something a little more safely than that, but I can't rule it out.
Seems like we need to have a talk with whoever it is thinking about this ignominious alliance. I'm good at talking sometimes. Just point me at him.
Now, are you guys? I think Odell and Livia have kind of been chatting up over in one space. Do you think Livia is still involved in this part of the conversation, or is this happening after Livia has sort of left you guys to get settled in?
This feels like a fellowship huddle to me. I don't know about you guys.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so I didn't know if I needed to like throw in like Livia's, horrified expressions or anything like that. So, okay, so y'all huddle as you need, and then let me know when y'all are ready to take a jump.
I mean, I think we need to find out what kind of technology, what kind of technology they want, and whether or not they've already gotten it from the dwarves.
Definitely need to confirm that, yeah.
You know your way around this place, Regina. Where would we look to find the secret technology?
Uh,
Do you have like a secret technology tower?
we have the experimental wing.
It's got a big neon light secret technology tower.
That would be something maybe one of the first years would do as a prank.
Yeah.
Like just get a hold of some neon tubing.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, let's think about that. Let's see. So, Regina, you think there's they've designed like a separate building for experimental stuff, which seems wise given the dwarves' propensity to blowing things up.
Yeah.
So, what sort of clearance do you think you would need as a university student to get like access to that building? Like, I'm presuming they don't let first years in there without a full escort. So, what do you think you need to get over there?
I probably need a good reason or something. I mean, I'm an exemplar hero, sure, but they probably don't want me to just wander around if I don't have a reason.
So, do you think this would be a good time to see if you can catch up with your grandmother? Maybe she can get you some sort of access pass or something.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, and I think now, are you gonna? Do you think y'all think the fellowship would go along on this particular visit, or do Dapperdo and Odell? Do y'all want to kind of wander off and see what you can see as kind of outsiders?
Yeah, I don't think we'd be terribly helpful in getting clearance to this place.
Yeah, I'm interested in if we can learn anything more about the political situation, possibly just, meddling in that and seeing where that takes us.
Okay, so we might have just a short split to see a couple of things. So Odell and Dapperdew, I think we'll get to you in just a minute. And first, we want to deal with Regina and this miniature family reunion with grandmother Octavia. Regina, where do you think on the university grounds Grandma Octavia has her office space? She's a famous emeritus, probably one of the oldest people still active in the university. Where is her space?
I think she probably has like one of the oldest buildings on campus, so it's going to be a lot smaller in terms of like height, but it's all hers, which is like big for bragging rights.
Okay, so she does not share any space with anybody now.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how they're showing like that she's got the juice here. She has literally her own building. Okay. So you said this is smaller than the others. Do you think it's maybe just 3 floors, maybe just bottom floor for the workshop, second floor for admin, third floor resident? That sound right?
Sorry. Yes, that sounds good.
Okay. So when you're approaching the building, I think you're walking up and you see like some folks moving in and out not first years because they're not wearing that sort of entry level brown tunic. I think these are maybe sophomore junior equivalents. So maybe they've got on like an intermediate color, maybe like something that's not so obviously that isn't designed so that it has to hide dirt from a lot of menial like lab and workshop tasks. So maybe this is like red or green. What do you think would be the intermediate color?
Red sounds good.
Okay. So these folks that are coming in and out are your journeyman types with kind of a red tunic. It's a little fancier looking. These are made of a little bit better material because the journeymen don't have to get their hands quite so dirty all the time as the apprentice folks do. And they're going in and out like they're running messages back and forth. Now, as you you can easily get in like there are obviously people going in and out and nobody seems to be stopping anybody. So you come in and you get up to the administrative level. The workshop there's stuff going on in the workshop, but it's obviously not the main business of the day. It's just like it's more like upkeep and sort of like long-term experiment type stuff. Nothing big or crazy, but I think you notice one thing going on in the bottom floor workshop as you're coming through it that maybe it puts you on edge. What do you think that is? What are they working on down there that kind of makes you a little bit nervous about how far the Overlord's offer of tech may have spread?
I think it may be that they aren't working. Like all the big machines are cold. Like they haven't been run in hours, maybe days. And if my grandma has pulled off all the workers from active projects to ferrying messages or doing something else, then something has gone wrong.
Okay, so basically it's the inactivity that is disturbing here. This should be a hotbed of things looking dangerous, and right now this all looks really, really bland and safe, kind of thing. Nothing's running. The centrifuges are still, that sort of stuff. All
yes.
Right. Okay, so you go up the stairs as you're sort of mulling that over, and I think you come up and you step up into the administrative wing, and you see your grandmother Octavia at her desk, chatting with well, chatting might be the wrong word for it. She is like rattling something off at somebody. That's obviously, you get the impression that they're supposed to remember what she's telling them. And before you approach close enough to kind of hear what she's saying, describe to me the tableau we're seeing here. Like, describe first like how Octavia looks. Like, we know that she's surprisingly active for her age. What's her basic look like? What is she wearing? Like, how does she carry herself? And what stuff in her office shows us all as we see this big office splash page of hers that this is a lady not to be trifled with, either educationally or politically.
Physically, I think she's sort of broader, gotten heavier with age, but still has fresh calluses on the fingers. That still works with their hands, that sort of thing. And sort of as like a wall of trophies of like patents and stuff, like projects, designs, like all framed up on the wall.
Okay, and so she's got this wall of like these. What do these patent award look like? Are they like little plaques that you could easily tack up on a wall for display? Are they actually little trophy things? Like you have like a tiny little sculpture on top of a little pedestal? Like what do they look like?
I'm thinking like framed blueprints.
Ooh, okay. All right, and so definitely we've got this vision like on one side of her office as we're sort of panning across. You've got this wall of these framed blueprints, and it's like a whole wall of them. And so you can tell she's definitely done her share of work here at the university. What do we see in here that kind of tells us that she is not just a long-term professor or inventor, like she's also been involved in the political life of the city?
She's got like her official robes on like a rack, and she doesn't wear it most of the time because it's got all these medals and stuff on it that it's impractical to actually wear.
Okay, so we see like on the other side, like she's most proud of this stuff over here because that's got a whole wall. But over here on this side, we see this really ornate robe of state, basically.
Yes.
Sound right? And it's so full of medals that you're pretty sure that it would actually hurt her to wear it. Like we get the impression that robe is probably like as a worn garment is not something she could actually wear. She would probably have to like get a sedan chair if she tried to wear that thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you approach, and she is finger pointing at this journeyman, like giving him a very specific message, and he's like hurriedly writing it down in surprisingly neat handwriting. It's obviously he's been told that this has to be legible for someone else to read. He's sweating because he's trying to write this down fast enough to get what she's saying, but also trying to make this letter legible. He can either, you get the impression like he's sweating so much because he has learned, apparently he's been doing this for long enough, he's learned that he can either make it legible or he can keep up with Octavia, but he cannot do both. So he's elected to make it legible because he doesn't want to have to write it again, because then you get the impression she would be yelling at him more. So he is going slower, and Octavia is getting frustrated with him being so slow. But you can also tell that maybe she's had to go through this with just about every person she has running messages for her. So she's not started to yell at him about him being slow yet. I think as she finishes up the message and you approach close enough to be in earshot, you hear her say, and you tell that old gearhead that if he doesn't be more careful, he is going to end up, losing a hand to that thing. It is, it is not something to be toyed with. This is not a journeyman project. And you see him you see the scribe gulp a little as he folds the message up, and she says, and you put that right into his fat little hands. And he visibly does another large gulp as he turns and scrambles out. And when she finally turns around and she starts to you can tell she's thinking you're another messenger before she's actually looked over at you. And she blinks when she raises her eyes, and she adjusts her spectacles a little bit and says, "Regina?"
Hi, Grandma.
And I think she raises up and says, "What is this? Hi, Grandma. Give me a hug, you." And she hugs, and she's got a surprisingly hard level hug. It's and like an engineer slap on the back hug. It's a little bit awkward because you're nervous about patting her too hard, but she has no compunctions about patting you too hard. So it's that sort of hug, overly enthusiastic, I would say it would be a bro hug, but it's got more affection than that. But there's a lot of patting on the back, way more than she with way more force than she probably needs to. Just sit down, Regina. What in the world are you doing back here? I thought you were pursuing that business with the Sylvan Sapphire and Rhinum, and we heard about the research team that had been sent in.
Yes, we finished. We found a way to hurt the Overlord, and we came back because we heard they'd sent an emissary to here of all places.
Oh, yes, they have. And she leans back and in her chair, and sort of see her cracking her back a little bit. Okay. Yes, my dear, she had. They have sent one, and the little bugger hit us where we're most vulnerable. He offered us technology and knowledge, things that to show us the ways that the Overlord could do things. Because we all know that resin crystal business, none of our people could figure that out. We had our best people on it, none of them could figure it out. And he just offered it to us. Offered us the technology, how the Overlord did it. We still can't understand all of it, but they offered to let us study one of the devices. And the university left it a chance. Perhaps originally I think their intentions were good. They thought, oh, if we can access this, then we will know how to counter it. The Overlord will be less dangerous. But I can't see the Overlord giving us that kind of knowledge, that kind of power. It has to be some sort of trick. It has to be. Because if there's one thing we know about the Overlord, they're not a fool. They're not going to give us the means to counteract one of their most powerful weapons.
I think you're right. This must have been some kind of trap.
And there are people on the council, on the Emeritus Council, that were so greedy for that knowledge that they bit. They took that hook all the way down their throats. I've been trying without success to sort of try to play down this and to try to head off both the Emeritus Council and the Consultorium, which is that's the political end of things. That's their name for the Senate. Trying to head off their willingness to make any sort of deal or pass along any of our technology, because if the Overlord really got access to some of the things we know how to do, some of the technology we still have, they would become even more dangerous than they already are. Yeah.
They're already experimenting with some of our portal technology.
And you see her blanch. Like, she was already like kind of old lady, sort of like stays inside too much sort of pale. Like, she is visibly a shade whiter now, like when those words left her mouth. Like, she did not know that. And like, you see, like, for the first time I think you've ever seen, you see a look of absolute terror on her face. And she like leans back and she takes a long, slow, deep breath. Regina, dear, someone has made a terrible, terrible mistake.
I think you're right, and I'm not sure.
And she's just she sort of leans forward, and like her head is just in her hands right now. Like, just sort of like, she's not like crying, but it's like a double face palm sort of effect. Like, oh my God, what have we done? Kind of attitude. She almost like, which one of the idiots would have done it?
I don't know, but I think the Fellowship should go have a word with the Overlord's emissary.
I think that's both wise and foolish. I will tell you, the emissary is here under a flag of truce. The Consultorium has given them diplomatic passage here to discuss these matters with the Emeritus Council here at the university, as well as the Consultorium itself. You cannot attack them openly, as much as I may agree that we might need that they've done wrong, and but someone with significant power has apparently fed them some of our technology already, when there's been no formal agreement to do so. The Consultorium has not voted on that, nor has the Emeritus Council. Those proposals have been floated. They are being discussed with far more gravity than they should be. But someone has obviously jumped the gun and given them access to that, because no one else in this semi-backward little underworld we've managed to hide in has anywhere near the technological understanding to even begin to fathom what we do with our portal technology. So there's no way the Overlord or anyone they had access to would be able to come to that knowledge independently. That knowledge just isn't here. It's only here. We brought it. We're the only ones who brought it here, and even we don't use it. Like, it's not. We don't portal to the other side of the city. We don't portal around the world. We don't portal around this place. Like that. The technology itself is dangerous, and we know that, and that's why we don't do that. That's why we roll around on carriages instead of jumping through portals. Fathom the level of madness that And she just shakes her head, like, the level of just sheer greed that would, or greed, it would have to be greed or madness that would lead somebody to consider giving the Overlord that technology.
Yes, I guess we'll find out which it is.
Says the Overlord's emissary. Is a small fellow named Sarcoides. He is one of the mushroom people, not the mushroom orcs, like your fellow Dapper Jim. He's one of the smaller ones. The ones that are scientists, the ones that have at least nominally thrown in with the Overlord that we know of. And he's been given the honorarium tower, and that's the tower where the visiting dignitaries are traditionally housed. Like if anybody is diplomatically visiting the city or the university, like that's the place they would give them. And I think they will probably be there. They usually aren't in the tower most of the time. They usually only stay there at night. My guess is that Sarcoides is probably chatting up some member of the Emeritus Council, or maybe a few members of the Consultorium, in attempts to get these proposals past one or both of those two bodies. I'm not sure. I've been trying to keep track of where they're going, but they visit so many people, and because of my opposition, like the people in charge of meeting with him typically don't share that information with me.
I'll go talk to the Fellowship, see what we can do.
Be careful. Obviously, things have gone farther than I had thought, and there may be more than just Sarcoides. May not be the only person in the city that's in the Overlord's pocket, apparently. Be careful. You're my only granddaughter.
Aren't I always? I say, with visible scorch marks somewhere on my clothing.
Well, yes, and you have yet to see fit to extend the family tree anymore. So be careful.
I will.
And you see that she's that might be the lead-in for a grandmotherly, like, when am I getting those grandbabies kind of thing. So maybe you try to beat a hasty retreat after that.
Yep, I skedaddle.
So while that's been going on, we're going to fade back over to Odell and Dapperdew. Where do you guys want to try and go to find things out? Like you've got a bond with Livia. Odell, how did you word that particular bond with Livia? Like what's the basics of the relationship?
I have not worded it. Let's see. She.
Might it be something about her trying to get you being able to assist her on getting a spot on that Sylvan Sapphire research?
Yeah. Something. She believes that I can help her get access to the Sylvan Sapphire. How about that?
That works. And it's true. You probably could help her.
Yeah.
So you got that bond that you can make use of while you're here to get information out of her or find out things that she knows. She has been in the university and around the town for a while, so she might be of some assistance. So let's see, if you guys are trying to find out, are you guys kind of find out like the sort of the lay of the land or like the word on the street sort of thing about what's going on with the Overlord, or you want to do some more physical investigation?
I want someone to point me towards, who are the dwarves that are, making this big mistake, so I can show them the error of their ways.
Okay. Well, I think somebody has been talking with the Overlord, but I don't know that you guys haven't heard from Regina about like someone that might have literally given the Overlord that portal technology. So while somebody's been taking the Overlord's proposal a little bit too seriously, I don't think you got that next step that Regina just got.
We heard from Livia that political and academic figures were paying too much attention to the Overlord. So gotcha. I want names, I guess. Right.
Okay. Well, I think Livia can probably help you out with a couple of the university types, and maybe she might know somebody who might be able to give you some information on the political types. But you can tell by just how fascinated she is with the ecology of Comdir that she's probably not making a whole lot of political allies. So that's not her sphere of influence, but she might know what's going on with some of the university folks.
I might have a suggestion for the political side.
Okay.
Where is I guess basically the capital?
I think, both. I would think it's probably near the university. And
Okay.
Regina, if you have an idea for that, let me know. Where do you think the Capitol building would be in comparison with the university? Like, do you think it's close? Do you think the university is on the outskirts of town and the Capitol's in the middle of town? Like, what do you think?
Let's say the Capitol's on like the outskirts of the university.
Okay, so they're really close. Like that would show how close the university is to the political scene, like how closely linked those things are. I like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that like the place to hear political gossip is like bars where politicians hang out.
That works. Yeah. That sounds good to me. Okay,
I think you guys are able to find one of those relatively easily. I think with just a word or two from maybe, because I think oddly enough, like the bars that the politicians hang out, because most of the politicians are also like university graduates, are the same places that some of the professors in the university hang out. Like there's a lot of cross-pollination in that because of how close the two entities are. So Livia will say, well, a lot of the consulars hang out, in the busted tankard, which is here, and she points over there, and you can see it. It's got like this big tankard that looks like it's been blown up. like it's got like it's in the midst of an explosion, and you can go into there, and she tells you basically the professors and the politicians meet there sometimes, and they chat about stuff. They argue about scientific projects and public works, and most of the time they don't fight. So it's usually pretty safe. Every once in a while, though, somebody gets up in arms about the best way to route some new power conduit or something like that, or how to run the overhead rail, and then things can get ugly. So just just read the room while you're there. Like if you see like if you start to hear people using loud technical words, then you might want to duck. And she says, I'd love to go with you. Actually, no, I wouldn't, because the last time I went to that place, there was one of those fights, and I got arrested along with the like 5 other people that that weren't even really involved in the fight. We just happened to be in the way when those 2 idiots started to fight, and like we got dragged to the drunk tank for a night, and I'm not doing that again. So, good luck.
Sounds perfect. Yeah, if you're up for it, Odell, I'm up to just go to this bar, start asking questions, possibly knocking heads, and see what we can uncover.
Sure, why not?
Okay, so you guys walk over to the bar, and you come inside, and I'll say it's just now starting to fill to its regular capacity. And inside here, you see like the fashion in this place is basically like workshop turned bar. All of the tables are like old workshop tables, like old saw tables, like old like woodworking tables. Like everything in here at one point or another was some sort of craft related table, or something like that. And all the benches are like just are like university like residency benches. Like they're uncomfortable. They might, you would guess they don't want people to be all that comfortable on the benches too much, because they don't want people falling asleep on them or anything. But they're slightly slanted, so that it's really hard to, like, if you start to get a little drunk, like, you're not going to stay on them. And that's maybe how they analyze when they need to cut people off. Like once they stop being able to stay on the seat, then it's time to shut down the tap for that guy, kind of thing.
I look around for the most important looking person here.
Okay, and I think you see a guy who is in really fancy robes, and you've seen a couple of people in fancy robes, I think, as you were walking out of the university. Like there's a university style of fancy robe that you've seen, and then there's this kind of fancy robe, which is obviously something different. Like it's got a different color scheme and pattern. Regina, command me some lore about what the robe of state looks like for your standard like member of the governing body. Like what do their robes look like?
Bright purple. Because it's really hard to get purple dye down here, so it's just to show off the dye, pretty much.
Okay, and does everybody have a bunch of medals to throw on their robe like your grandmother, or is that just her?
I think everyone important does have like a bunch of medals.
Okay. Do you think those medals are actual like real achievement medals, or are they like medals that you buy somewhere?
Probably a mix, depending on like how big you are. Yeah.
Some of them are participation medals.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of what you see. You see this guy in this really voluminous deep purple robe, and it's got all these little medals like just patterned all the way across the chest portion. They start to bow out a little from the obviously this guy's got to get a bit of a gut underneath his robe. It's sort of flowing. The robe covers it mostly, but the medals, because they're heavier, sort of accentuate where it starts. So there's like the metal, the portion with the medals attached sort of bows out like right where it hits his gut, because it's weighing down right there. So you kind of see him, and he's got a sort of a thick gray beard, not like crazy dwarven braided beard. I'm talking about like just like a regular guy's beard, but it's like thick and gray.
Yeah.
And he's shaved his head. So he's just basically got the shaved head and thick beard. and he's ordering a pint along with a couple of other fellows they're in a mix of purple robes and the university robes. And Regina, one more time, what style are the university robes? Like, what's the color for their professorships?
Okay. You're muted.
Sorry, blue, I guess.
Okay, so the top level of the university is blue. Okay, so you see one in like a blue robe that is really no less adorned than that one, but that person at least doesn't look like they have a gut that's offsetting the robes, and this person is a dwarven lady. They have shortcut hair, almost like a bob style. It comes just down below the chin, and it has that look where you can tell that it's usually for most of the day that hair is probably tied back tightly just to keep it out of the way. But right now it's sort of loose. I guess because this person is off the clock or at least out of the lab. So they're not so worried about catching hair on fire, maybe.
So I say to Odell, purple robe, bald head. That guy's got to know something. I'm going to go make a friend.
I'll watch for when to duck.
So Depardieu walks over and just stares directly down at this guy, because Depardieu is tall, right? These are human-sized dwarves, but Depardieu is a larger than human-sized orc. So he's staring right down at this guy, and as the pint arrives, Depardieu just reaches out, takes the guy's pint, downs it, and then starts chewing on the mug itself, taking a couple bites, staring all the while. And I'm hoping to use my move, Smell Fear.
Well, I think that situation would set you up to possibly do that. Tell us what that move entails.
When you look closely at a person, so closely it makes them upset, uncomfortable, or scared, you may ask questions from both the Speak Softly and the Look Closely lists, and you can ask one more question than your roll would normally allow.
Okay, so I think this sets you up to look closely at them because, you're staring down at them as and his hand is still reaching to where his cup was.
Not anymore.
And it stopped, as he saw you pick it up, his hand just stopped, but he hasn't taken his hand back yet. It's still standing there because he's still just looking up at you, sort of chewing on that sort of pewter mug. And he just looks absolutely horrified.
Great.
So roll me a look closely. Let's see what it gets.
All right, that's with sense, and I don't have hope or despair on this one, right?
No, this is just standard roll, unless Odell wants to assist you. But it sounds like she's hanging back and watching to see what happens.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not sure I could make this scarier.
True. It's hard to outdo that. Without physical violence.
I have rolled a 9 on Look Closely.
Okay, so you get to ask questions from those two lists.
Yes, 4 questions total, and I'll find out one of the answers the hard way.
Okay, so which list do you want to start from? Which question do you want to hit with first?
Let's see. Yeah, from the Speak Softly list, what can they tell us about blank? Where blank is the dwarvish negotiations with the Overlord. So basically, what can I rattle out of this guy about how the dwarf, politicians are responding to the Overlord, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you. I'm guessing you're pretty blunt about how you're asking this. You're not sugarcoating this. You're you're how. Tell me how you frame that question to him, what you're doing, get him to start blabbering, and that'll kind of frame how I blab.
Yeah. So in between bites of his mug, I'm We heard you're talking to the Overlord. Bad move. What's all that about? What have you been saying, and what have they been saying to you?
I think he looks like, and he starts to babble a little bit, in between, and you're hearing his babbling like over the crunches of the mug in your mouth. He says, they've just been meetings. They've just been like, it's just an envoy. It's like one of the little mushroom people. Like not one of you, but like the little ones, the little guys.
The tyrants of science.
What? He looked confused at that, but he keeps babbling in an attempt to maybe forestall you talking more, because like every word you're saying with that mouthful of Peter Mug sort of cringes at. So he just starts to babble and say, well, we had they testified before a consultorium committee meeting earlier today, and it just keeps repeating the same thing. And I think tomorrow there's going to be some sort of meeting at the university where they're going to be making some sort of presentation to the assembled emeritus faculty to talk about what they can offer. But it's we're trying to kind of humor them, because obviously you don't want to like set the Overlord to come after you, because like we've seen what happens. We know what happens when the Overlord focuses on a place. Even your city with you're all
They
huge.
hit us first.
They destroyed the whole town. We don't want that to happen here. Sure, we got technology, but like they're doing stuff that we don't even understand how it works. And he's babbling. And basically that's the impression you get. Like the Overlord did one presentation to a committee with the consultorium early today. The Overlord is supposed to give a presentation. The Overlord's general is supposed to give a presentation to the university tomorrow.
Yeah. I want to know, what should I be wary of when dealing with them? And I think like that's just like, Depardieu narrows his eyes and regards, if it's legit, kind of narrows his eyes and like they dart along this whole row, right? So that I can extend the question slightly to, this whole group of dwarvish dignitaries. Who should I be wary of, and what should I be wary about, if that makes sense?
Okay. Let's see. Okay. I think you might already know this, just from your expectations, but basically the muttering at the table is like the little guy, the little mushroom scientist Sarcoides. Like he creeps people out, but people still like listen to him in sort of a receptive manner. Like he's creepy, but like whatever his creepiness is, it doesn't seem to turn people away from him. He seems to be able to he's surprisingly good at talking people into stuff, even though he's really creepy.
Yeah. All right.
The mushroom scientist guys. Yeah, the mushroom scientist guys. They have kind of a face, but they've also got that weird mushroom head, and it's like, the dwarves are fairly open-minded, but like, given like the history of the mushroom people, like, and everybody knows that the mushroom scientists were working with like some evil surface empire at some point. Like that word has gotten around about that. That was like 50, 60 years ago, where everybody down here knows what they did, and that it was bad. And the Rhinumians like had sent one of their royalty up top to knock the snot out of them about it.
Yeah. Well, technically, fungoids don't have snot, but we'll leave it.
whatever you'd call something. Then they were chastised for it, and like, but this guy seems to be able to make way more headway here than legitimately he should, and it's not, and it may just be people are scared of drawing the Overlord's ire, or it could be something specific about this guy, but this guy's the one here, and he's the one that seems to be doing most of the convincing.
Okay. If this is legit from the Look Closely list, what will happen if I take Sarcoides out?
Ooh.
Be a shame if something would have happened to this little mushroom freak.
And I think they get nervous, and this is everybody at the table, and you get noise from all sides about what people think would happen, and the consensus at the table among the people that are most fearful is the Overlord will send their army straight at us, like, and you've seen this city, like there's a lot of tech here. But the way the city has been described, like this is not a city built to be defended in a military action. Like this is a place where people live,
a place of research.
Yeah, this isn't a fortress. This is a city, and they're terrified of having to deal with like a full scale like military power invasion, because like they've got a lot of tech. They think they could do okay. But they don't think they can withstand a full-on invasion from the Overlord, given what they know the Overlord can do.
For my last question, is something hidden or out of place? If so, what looks suspicious?
And
I'll remind you, I get to find out one of these answers the hard way.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the people. This is another person in a purple robe. I think finally like is shaken out of the sort of mystique that you had with the table when you first arrived, and he points at you and says, "You can't interfere with this. This is dwarven business, and if you are trying to butt in to dwarven business, then we're going to have to deal with you. Like, you don't have a role here. You don't have a space here. This is us. We are trying to defend ourselves. We're trying to deal with the problem that's confronting us, and we are not going to be intimidated," he says, gulping visibly, "just because you think you know something better than we do. You don't know anything. You're a bunch of barbarian imbeciles. You strap a couple of sticks together with a pointy end, and you think that's going to stop the Overlord. It's not. We all know it's not. We all saw what they did. We all saw what they did when they came for you. And we saw what you guys did, which is lose. We're not going to lose. You know how we're not going to lose? Because we're smarter. We know how to play this game. We are scientists, and we're not going to let you, a wild element in this equation, mess things up for us." And I think he's going to he starts to basically pull a weapon.
What type of a weapon?
It's some sort of dwarven contraption. It looks. It's not like a sword or something like that. It's some sort of projectile thrower. Now you can tell because it's like you've seen the muskets that Regina's companions used, and it's something like that, but it's a lot fancier, and it's like pistol sized instead of like rifle sized. This looks like it can throw like something a little bit more powerful than what you're used to seeing.
Okay, great. Odell, do you have my back here? You want to help me out? As someone just tries to get the drop on me.
Sure. Let's see. What can I do about this? What I
Let's
got.
see. There's a couple
You
of
know
things.
what? I have a move for that. Although it doesn't kick in until somebody actually like attacks you. But
Well, that's literally what's happening here. Like this is like an anticipatory cut. Like he's gonna shoot Dapperty.
yeah, so I have keep them safe, which is you are here to make sure they can go back home after this is all over, no matter what. When you're with someone you have a bond with and they take harm, you take that harm in their place.
Okay. Now, do you want to try and you can also, in this instance, as a sort of a head-off move, there is the overcome move, which is you attempt to avoid, redirect, or prevent harm that something will cause, and you can roll plus blood. It lets you counteract the
Okay.
harm before it hits. Now you can
Cool.
still apply your other move if you miss. I'll let you
Okay.
apply your squire move to kind of take the damage instead.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so he's pulled this projectile weapon, which that like yeah, that looks like a gun to me. I don't know what kind of. It's a weird kind of gun, but it's definitely a gun. I know what a gun looks like. So I'm like watching as he's getting ready to fire it, and I throw something pretty large in the area. There's a
Tables, chairs. Or you probably throw one of these. You can probably throw one of these one of these short benches.
that's about the right size. And I just like throw it in between so that the gun hits it instead.
Okay. All right. Roll plus blood, and let's see how well that works.
Nope.
Ooh. Okay. Do you want to take advantage of your square move and basically take
Sure,
that damage
yeah.
instead? Okay. All right. You're gonna have to pay a price or damage one of your stats, and this is a when this pistol fires and it connects. Unless you use some sort of price that doesn't involve you damaging a stat, I think. It is a projectile and it's of that corruptive resin.
Hmm.
Like so, it hits and it causes this wound that starts to fester.
Oh, that is awful and completely appropriate. And
Yeah,
I just undamaged Grace. So I'm gonna damage it again.
Okay.
Oh no.
This is necrotic. So then, and I'll describe for y'all again the necrotic tag. Hold on just a second. Get back to that part.
That's the one where you double check it so it'll be damaged for longer.
Yeah, you gotta. It takes 2 heals to heal this one.
Okay.
So, this is ugly.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I just thought it was a gun. So.
Yeah, and like as this, so is it that you just for the picture, does Odell throw the thing and it doesn't like fully block the projectile, so the projectile like ricochets off and hits Odell?
Or it just gets his attention and he just turns and immediately fires it at me.
Oh, like you're throwing this thing and he just
I throw it a
turns
little
on
bit
you.
too soon. It hasn't
Yeah.
fired yet, and so it doesn't. There's no shot for it to block, but it gets his attention, and I'm the one who has just attacked him. You've just threatened him.
So he sees this bench coming toward him. He turns and he fires in the direction of the bench from where the bench is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And as I see Odell get hit, I'm like, no.
And everybody's jumping up now. So.
Bar fight. Do not attack the emissary of the Overmoon, you monster! And I will go ahead and try and just swing one of my axes to smash that gun out of his hand.
Okay. Let's see. It looks. Let me see how that would play out here. I'm thinking we could either roll that as a kind of a keep them busy or an overcome, depending on what direction you think you're going in.
Uh, let's do keep them busy. Because we want to, if we can, because if I succeed at that, there's someone else can have an advantage on them.
Yes,
Right.
and that's usually a good setup move for a finish them. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try to keep him busy by messing up that gun real good with my axe.
Okay, roll plus courage, or
All
unless
right.
you have an orc move that lets you substitute another stat for it.
No, not for this one. Yeah, keep him busy with courage. Neither hope nor despair.
Correct.
Oh no, but I rolled a 4.
Okay. All right. So I think you swing the axe, and because of that table being thrown, like the table that, or not table, the bench that Odell had thrown, like it sort of gets in the way, like it's sort of toppled upwards and is kind of in front of him and between you two, because she had tried to block the shot, and the bench went over there, but the timing was off for it. But the bench is now just in your way, and you have to kind of try to swing through it, and that just doesn't work. So I think what happens is you hit that bench, and apparently that bench had some metal somewhere in it, like it was an old workhouse bench, and I think you're gonna have to pay a price. I think you're gonna lose that axe.
That's fair. That's fair. Trust the dwarves to over-design everything such that there's metal reinforcing their bar benches. Yeah, I'll mark myself down an axe here.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of growling in frustration that this whole setup has gone so far south.
Okay, and I think we'll sort of pull back a little bit here, kind of from that, and go back. Regina, you get back to y'all's residential tower, and I think your friends aren't there. I think Livia is there. She's like leading people, like putting like fresh towels and stuff like that up in the residence. But your friends are not there. What do you do?
In that case, I'm gonna ask Livia where they went.
Okay, and as she's pointing people up, she looks over and says, "Oh, they went to the busted tankard. They wanted to talk to people. So I told them that would probably be a good place to, find people from the university and people from the consultorium, like, chatting if they wanted to talk to people and stuff."
I'm gonna head right over there just in case they might need me.
Well, that stuff can happen over there. Like I'll never go over there. I told them that I wasn't going to go, but like more power to you. Yeah, have fun. Be careful. And I think as you get over there, I think you arrive and you hear this commotion inside. You hear what sounds like a gunshot go off from inside the bar as you approach the door, and you open the door and you see like kind of the tableau here. I think you see like Dapperdew swing that axe that gets caught in the bench, and see Odell sort of maybe sort of staggering back, clutching at a wound, I guess. And that's kind of tableau. That's kind of what you see there. What do you do, Regina?
I'm gonna sprint straight towards the person with the gun.
Okay. All right. What do you think you're doing here? Are you going to try and keep them busy? Is that kind of what you're trying to pull off?
Honestly, I'm probably going for the kill just because they've got some kind of gun and it's a pretty dangerous situation, and my teammates seem in trouble.
Okay. That definitely seems like they're in trouble. I'm not sure in a position to finish him yet, though, because there hasn't been a setup yet.
Oh, okay. I hope they'd be like taken by surprise by me just sort of rushing in all of a sudden.
they've already got the gun out and they've already shot somebody. So, I'm not sure they're in quite that position yet. If you'd have been behind them, maybe, but you came in the door.
In that case, I'll keep them busy by just like yelling bloody murder and being very loud and distracting.
Okay. I think there's a lot of people up and around, but you come in shrieking, like with an open, by the door. That'll draw his attention, I think.
All right.
So let's do a keep them busy. Roll plus courage.
Oh no. How is it that this bar full of dwarves is going to kill this entire fellowship?
Okay. All right. I think what happens is you do draw his attention, but you also draw the attention of like a squad of the capital guards, and so you have a squad of guards now charging in past you, and I think they're basically coming in and they're going to arrest anybody that's not an important person out there. So that they're all rushing in at this point, and basically they basically push you aside, Regina, and one of them is clamping cuffs on you, just like this looks like some sort of formula that they've adapted for this thing. Like they're not, if you're not in a purple robe or a blue robe, it looks like they're cuffing everybody in here. And I think with that distraction, I think the guy with the gun, he makes a run for it out the back. He's gone.
You know what? I'm going to follow him.
Okay, he's making his run for it. Odell, what are you going to try and do?
And to flag, I've got a move for tracking someone whose trail isn't cold. So when we turn back to me, I'd love to roll that.
Sounds perfect to me. Okay, Odell, what are you doing? You see these guards sort of up like classic like cops busting a bar fight kind of thing. You're not sure they realize somebody pulled a gun. They just heard noise. So they're not coming in with guns blazing or anything. They're coming in like they're busting up a bar fight.
I would like to do something that I definitely have never done before on the surface and run away from the cops. I have a move for it.
Hey, you've got getaway, and I think you've got a modified move for the squire.
Yeah, I can roll courage if I run past or through the danger instead of just away from it, and I think they're coming in the door, so there's really no other way I can run.
Okay. Throw me a getaway with your courage then. Oh, there we go. Y'all were starting to worry me there.
Yeah.
Okay. Does your squire move give you any special options on the getaway, or is it just let you roll with courage instead?
Any allies who run after me can also roll courage instead of grace to get away, if that's helpful at all.
Okay. Let's see, Regina. I think with Odell charging through, I think you have a chance to try and follow them out. Odell, you get to choose one option from the getaway list. You can get there quickly, avoiding any harm along the way. You can get there quietly, drawing no attention, or you can grab someone nearby and bring them with you.
I'll just grab Regina.
Okay. All right. So what that means is, I think you have to bustle through them, and I think you're going to have to damage another stat or pay a price of some form to kind of make it past all these guards.
Yeah. And I'm just not carrying much, so let's damage the one I use next to. Well, I'll damage blood.
Okay. you're really like wearing yourself out trying to run with this woman.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wounded and it hurts like hell, and yeah.
Okay. Regina, you see Odell come, and if you're willing, like she'll sort of you're not sure why this is working, because she's just walking right through them. But she's sort of staggering and holding her side, and maybe you're getting the impression that none of the guards want to have to take responsibility for that. So they're just like pointedly avoiding, like looking at looking in her direction, because they're like, I don't want to have to deal with that paperwork. They're going full like disinterested cop on her. Like they're avoiding looking at her at all.
I'm gonna go right after him.
Okay, so you follow her out that door.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So Adele, you have gotten yourself and Regina out. You have drawn some attention from some of the other patrons, who are screaming like they're part of the ones that started this whole thing, pointing and screaming. But you escape. The guards are too busy dealing with everybody else
And not dealing with the person with the who's just been shot with the like resin creating gun, which
Yes.
just seemed like a thing that a cop wouldn't want to get involved in.
Yeah, well, they see you're hurt, and they're like, nope, I'm not doing that paperwork. Then maybe the next guy behind me will do that paperwork. And it's classic, like buck passing, and then finally the buck just gets thrown out the door.
Yep.
Okay, so as Regina and Odell are escaping past the guards out the front, Dapperdo is trying to charge after this fellow at the back and has a special orc move. So let's see that orc move.
Yeah, so I've got a move called Bloodhound. When you track someone whose trail isn't cold, roll plus blood. And I've got my companion who comes with me and is a pack hunter. Is it mechanically legit to expend one of Princess's stats here to roll with hope on this?
I think I can reasonably see that. Like she's, Princess is assisting.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember exactly how that assistance mechanic works, but if you're up for me to use it right here, it seems extremely appropriate for like Dapperdo to charge right out of the bar and like whistle, so that suddenly like bounding next to him is this creepy undead fungus wolf that he's like, good girl, Princess, after the gun wielding dwarf.
Yeah, basically, here's how it works. When you call upon a companion for help, you can damage a bond to create an advantage related to that stat. So I think you've got the wolf, they've got that stat. So I think it puts you in a good space to do that. And the advantage in this space, we'll say that it's letting you roll with hope here.
Okay. Thank you for your indulgence on that, Chris. All right. I'll make a blood roll with hope. And it's a 9.
All right. So that gets you a 9 on your move. What are your options with
either you find them quickly or they do not know they were followed. I want to choose they do not know they were followed. So it takes me a while to track this person down, but they're not like looking behind their shoulder expecting to see an orc come charging in.
Okay, so I think the reason it takes you so long is this person is doubling a lot. Like they're doubling around. They're trying to make sure that if anybody was following them, that person would long since have gotten lost. Unfortunately, they don't realize they're being tracked by an orc and a zombie fungus wolf.
Yeah.
So
nobody expects the zombie fungus wolf inquisition.
Exactly. So finally, you catch up to them. It does take a while. They're almost back to wherever they were going. You come up. They're about to walk into some sort of building. It's another one of these tall buildings. Looks not super fancy, but moderately fancy kind of things. Sort of like it's not the super stuff, the super good stuff that you'd see on an actual mansion, but maybe it's like McMansion.
Hmm. Would you say I have an opportunity to ambush them here?
I think they're set up for that. You chose to have them not notice they were followed, so I
Yeah.
think you got a shot at if you want to charge up and go after them. Like you need to get them before they get into the door, so you got to make it like you got to hit them
Yeah.
fast. But other than
Are
that,
and are they a threat to the world?
no, they are not.
Okay. Well, I have a move called Brutally Cunning. When you strike an enemy from an ambush, you may kill them. This does not work against the threat to the world, but it
Okay.
sounds like it works against this guy.
Yep. And if you kill him, he dead. Like that's it. He just dead.
So I think there's like a whistling sound, and the guy turns to see the axe that's flying towards him, and like pins him to the wall before he can react. Right through the sternum. As Dapperdew comes over and kind of like whisper growls, "That thing you were saying earlier about barbarians sticking a pointy end on a stick. The thing about axes is that there's two pointy ends."
He gurgles as he slides down the wall.
Great. I go through his pockets and look for clues.
Okay. I mean, he's still got the resin bin with him.
I'll hang on to that.
Okay. Other than that, I mean, he's got some loose money. Obviously, he was planning on buying drinks at the bar. And he's got the robe that he had. It's kind of bloody now, but like it was that purple robe. And it has some moderate decorations on it, and I think also you find I think this is actually something you don't necessarily find in his pockets, but I think it's something you detect. Like as you guys are trailing him and you catch up to him and you finally get close enough as you're going through his robe to grab to get the gun, a scent strikes you.
What do I smell?
That's mushroom spores. That's like a lot of them. Like you probably didn't detect it inside the bar because of all the other scents that are kind of overpowering in any place like that. But just here with just you and him this close, like he's like covered in these things. Like it's not visibly noticeable to anybody, but like the scent's so intense. Like this person has spent a lot of time, around a mushroom person.
Sarcoides. Would my sense be that these spores might have allowed Sarcoides to just hijack this dwarf's mind for his own purposes? Like, do I think this person is in league with Sarcoides, or I think this person is like a literal like puppet of Sarcoides?
Oof. Who knows what tricks those mushroom scientist people have?
Certainly the orcs are inclined to attribute any sort of trickery and treachery to them.
Yeah, I mean, with those, I mean, from your perspective, anything's possible with these guys. I mean, the guy didn't seem to be puppeteered. Like he didn't make those awkward sort of puppet movement kind of things, like you would expect someone who's being like directly controlled, influenced. Certainly possible. I mean, that is a lot of spores.
I will do whatever I can to like collect some spores as evidence.
Okay. How are you going to collect those?
You know what? Probably I have like kind of princess basically lap them up with like a weird little like fungus tongue, and then she kind of forms like a strange like cavity inside of her chest, where like with like a kind of a thick wall of this more like green orcish fungus is like holding in whatever like these little purple spores are that we're picking up from this guy. Does that work?
Yeah, that would work. That would
All
work.
right.
I think she can do that. So I don't think that really requires to mark a stat or anything on her. That's not. I don't think that's a big enough issue to really warrant a stat mark. So while you're doing that,
You know what I will do though is I'll say "good girl," and then I'll feed her a little bit of my strange orc jerky, and try to if that's all right, just unmark one of her stats for as I spend the jerky on that.
okay, I'll allow that. I think that works mechanically for her. Okay. Fading back to Odell and Regina. You've scrambled away from the guards busting up that bar fight. Odell, that wound is just horribly painful. Like it's like the kind of painful that basically makes you walk funny. Like you can still walk, and it doesn't seem to be like causing you more problems right now other than the pain. But it's one of those things that you can like feel like it, like this thing is going to be even worse tomorrow. It's that sort of pain. Like it's getting worse as you're walking away.
Yeah. As the adrenaline from trying to from actually not just trying to escape, from escaping at least, kind of fades off. Like, oh, ow, ow, and start realizing how bad it is, and also that like the edges are this weird resin stuff, and that's creeping me out almost more than the pain is.
Okay, and Regina, as you and Odell are fleeing, what do you see in the in the guard's response to you guys leaving that makes you worried that that your grandmother's concerns were probably not paranoid enough?
I probably noticed like the guards are explicitly, well, not explicitly, but clearly going to help the emissaries, contacts more than they're going to like arrest them. Like they're on board.
Okay, so you the guards are specifically like under probably general orders to leave certain people alone.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. All right. So I think we're getting close to our wrap up point. I don't want to keep you guys too late. So I think this is kind of a good like stopping point here. Everybody's kind of gotten away from the big bar fight. Each of you kind of have a issue that you probably need to deal with fairly soon. We've got Odell, who's going to need something to do with that wound. We've got Regina, who might be able to offer some help with that in some way, shape, or form. If nothing else, maybe knowing somebody at university that might be able to help. And we've got Dapperdew, who has gotten some new information about Sarcoides and his contacts that may be helpful. So we're going to I think close out things there and move on to our end of session move for this time. Is there anything anybody would like to sort of point out that they want to make sure and get done before we wrap up? Anybody got anything they want to get in before we do the wrap up?
I wonder if we can just establish that Dapperdew makes his way back and finds the others and kind of reports what happened, just so that we're in a good position to strategize the next move when the next session begins.
Sure.
Cool.
I think Dapper Note can find his way around well enough with his scent abilities to find his friends. You know exactly what they smell like.
Oh yes.
So if you can track down somebody you've never seen before, across an unfamiliar city, you can find your way back to your friends. That shouldn't be a problem. Okay. All right. So moving on, we're going to our end of session move, and we have 3 end of session questions to ask. And for each yes answer, we get to these 3 questions. The fellowship gets to choose one option from the end of session list. The first question is, did we save or protect a community in need? What do you guys think?
We're working on it.
Yeah, I think you're making progress.
I don't think
Definitely.
we've succeeded at it yet.
Well, no, but you're close. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we actually succeeded in that one completely yet. So I'd lean toward a no, unless one of you can give me a good rationale as to that you kind of made enough progress for that to count. Anybody got any additional input on that? Okay, so
No, I don't think we did.
okay, so we're a no on the first question. The second question: did we strike a blow against the Overlord and their minions? I think you kind of did. You discovered some things that could potentially lead to some serious trouble for the Overlord and their minions, specifically Sarcoides. So I'd lean toward giving you a yes on that one. Third question: did we learn more about the world and its peoples? We almost always do that. Like, that's almost always a yes question. We learned tons of stuff about the dwarves thanks to Regina.
This was a big session for learning about the dwarves.
Kyle, I appreciate you being super game for throwing in all those extra details, because this is Regina's show here, and I kind of wanted to make sure she got the biggest input on what the dwarves were like. So you've got 2 yes answers here, and you get to choose 2 out of these lists, or you can choose the same thing twice. There's of course the option to refresh one piece of your gear to its full value for each of you. That's one option. We can choose, each fellowship player chooses 1 stat to heal, and it doesn't have to be theirs. And the level up option. Now, I'll say this: the heal option in the end of session move, it's actually a heal option, not a fill your belly. So those can be used to help that necrotic wound. So you could use that to rationale getting some actual serious help for Odell for that resin wound. You could use it, choose it twice to completely heal the resin wound, or you could choose it once and at least have made headway toward getting it fully healed. And then maybe have a first action next time, see if we can find a healer.
Yeah, I'd lean towards picking the heal option at least once here, just to get some headway on some of our damage stats. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I think picking it once would be fine. That would avoid taking a ton of time at the beginning of next session with the whole not dying from necrotic wounds thing. I don't want to take a ton of time with that, but I'm fine with taking a little bit of time with that. So
okay. Now the way the heal option works is each of you gets to choose a stat to heal, and it doesn't have to be yours. So if 2 of you picked Odell's stat to heal, that would mean it would be fully healed.
I'm going to pick Odell's.
Okay. So you've got so if you go with that, say if Odell, if Kyle says Regina would pick your stat to heal, and if you picked your stat to heal, that would mean a shorthand version of you finding somebody who can help with the resin wound and getting it treated, so that your grace would be fully restored next session. That seem reasonable?
Sure.
I'll go ahead and heal my grace then, which has been damaged for I think multiple sessions, and I'll pick that to give us a re-graced party going into the next session.
Okay. All right. And what would your second option be?
Whew. Should we pick level up, given that we know that the Overlord will get to level up at this? Um, that, I worry about what happens if we let the Overlord level up. But what level are all of we? I'm level 3. What level are other folks?
I'm also 3.
Oh,
I'm 3 too.
okay. So we've all reached 3. Hamfast may be able to join us again next session, and that in that case would probably want to not be level 1. Or yeah, I get it's if we do
I
this
think
option.
Hamfast is already leveled up though, so I think they would get. You've already leveled them up to I think 3.
Oh, okay. We've got advances waiting for Pearl to
Yeah.
choose for that one.
Yeah,
Cool.
because you, in order to avoid me, like I can't be any higher level than the highest level of the party. So like if you guys were all level 3 and I was level 3 and Pearl was still level 2, I'd have to choose her to level up. But I think we've already been through that because you guys have leveled up a good bit. Like you've chosen at least one level up in each session. So
There's so many juicy moves out there to choose. Yeah. So
if you guys choose level up, the Overlord will level up. Like that will be my choice. I would level up the Overlord.
yeah, I don't know. So what do we think? Should we it feels like refreshing gear is more boring and level up is more exciting because it gives us something new, but also gives the Overlord something new going into the last session. So I lean slightly towards level up, but I understand that might be just me being a glutton for drama. So I offer that to other folks. What do you think? I'm happy to go with what the fellowship overall wants to do here.
I have no preference whatsoever. I will say that I don't have any particularly interesting moves that I want to take. So, so don't level me up.
I'm not looking at anything in particular for my level up.
Okay, so Alexi, you have anything that you would really love to have going into the last session?
I think I've taken the extra orc stuff I'm allowed to take. Let's see. Yeah, I'm out of I can't take any more orc customs.
You have to pick like a stat boost or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's not that exciting then, unless I share one of my moves with another player. So that is kind of fun as far as like a thing that's part of Fellowship we haven't touched on yet, which is the sharing moves deal. And I guess the question is, is anyone like super excited about a move like brutally cunning, so that we can have multiple people just ambushing? I guess if I share brutally cunning, this like turns into a game of Assassin's Creed where we're just sneaking around, one hit killing people from the shadows. But we also don't have to do the advancement. We can refresh gear and just be all in fighting form before the finale. So do people want to do gear refresh instead of this level up that's more where that might be more trouble than it's worth given the Overlord leveling up?
I'm flexible.
Let's see. It sounds like y'all are leaning towards choosing the boring option, which is okay. Like if I level up the Overlord, like they're going to be back up to regular Overlord strength when you have to face them. With an Overlord level up, like I can choose a new stat.
Let's not give the Overlord a new stat. Let's get some gear and keep the tables a little more level by the time the the Overlord confrontation happens.
As you know, we're gonna have to have a showdown scene next time. Like that's the big whammy at the end of session 5. You guys get to try and take a shot at the Overlord. So.
All right. Yeah. Let's refresh our gear then.
All right. Everybody picks one piece of gear to fully refresh.
Making some more axes.
Yeah. So, and we'll start up. It's like everybody will be pretty much healed up. And you guys will be ready to go. All right. So I think we've wrapped up. We've chosen our end of session moves. It looks like we're ready to roll with our final session of Fellowship for next week. Thank you guys for playing through this with me, and I'm going to close the recording now. Good night, everybody.